Welcome to another edition of Ask Isaiah. It's your host Isaiah Rhodes, and today I have to just express that a lot of the things that happened yesterday, I was not prepared for. I was actually prepared for something totally different in terms of how I was going to come on today. I was going to be really depressed. Full disclosure, I'm a huge Sixers fan, and my favorite player in the league is Russell Westbrook. So considering how things have gone for both teams, my emotions throughout this playoff run is it has peaks and valleys. The Sixers are in the second round. We're awaiting the finish of the Milwaukee Bucks and Boston Celtics series. Right now, the Celtics lead 3-2, and Marcus Smart is returned, providing a strong lift for a scrappy series at this point. So we'll see how that series will conclude tonight if Boston wins, or will it be extended to Game 7 if Milwaukee wins. But that being said, Philadelphia has dominated their first round series against Miami, and with the rest that the Sixers are getting, it should give them enough time to prepare for both teams and just put themselves in position to continue to make a run. With that being said, there's other series that are going down to the wire, 6 games extended. Last night we had the Indiana Pacers and Cleveland Cavaliers come down to the wire once again. A magnificent performance from LeBron James with 44 points, 10 rebounds, and 8 assists, including the game winner from King James. Not only did he hit the game winner, but he had to make up for some huge mistakes down the stretch, including a turnover, which actually went off of Miles Turner, but the possession went to the Pacers. LeBron able to come back and allegedly blocked Victor Oladipo, which the NBA came out in the last 2-minute report and said it was actually a goaltend. That goaltend would have gave Indiana a 2-point lead. Since Game 1, though, Victor Oladipo has been struggling mightily, and yet and still Indiana has been able to put themselves in position to win 3 of these 4 games. So when you have LeBron playing at this level, it's very difficult for Indiana to say that they're a clear-cut favorite. Right now, they're down 3-2, but going home, they should have the decided advantage in terms of the crowd. LeBron James, being the veteran that he is, putting himself in position to chase the GOAT of this game. He has 101 30-point playoff games, only 7 behind Michael Jordan at this point, and he's 2 steals away from becoming the all-time steals leader in the playoffs, only 2 behind Scottie Pippen, the tandem partner of Michael Jordan. So there's a lot going on. There's no coincidences to anything at this point. But with Cleveland on the brink of finishing that series, they'll go on to face the winner of Washington and Toronto. Now, Toronto took a 3-2 lead yesterday with a 108-98 victory over Washington. That game went down to the wire last night. Washington put up a valiant effort in terms of how great John Wall played, 26 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists. You had Bradley Beal had 20 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, but they really didn't get much production from Otto Porter and Markieff Morris. Morris had 6 points, Otto Porter had 9. Kelly Oubre, had a vibrant performance with 14 points. Really a great recovery considering how bad he's been struggling in this series. But when you have Kyle Lowry providing support to a great performance from DeMar DeRozan with 32 points, and when Toronto is able to capitalize on turnovers down the stretch, they have an opportunity to close out this series. With the home court advantage being the way it is in such an even series, I don't see this series being closed out in 6. I think it's similar to Milwaukee and Boston. I think Washington can win Game 6, and considering how even it is, they might be able to steal a Game 7. I'm not sure how it'll pan out, but I know that LeBron will welcome those particular challenges from both teams, because I think he has a decided psychological advantage against both teams. I think for Indiana, they're so young that they don't know what they don't know. So that series should provide more fireworks going forward. But the game of the night, in my opinion, I mentioned LeBron James's game-winning shot, and we put history to the side in terms of LeBron and how he's been able to come through in a clutch. That in itself should be the game of the night. But when you consider the comeback from the Oklahoma City Thunder against the Utah Jazz, trailing by as many as 25 in the second half. To be down by 25 and completely lifeless. I mean, I follow the Philadelphia 76ers and the Thunder very closely, and to watch how uh, the Oklahoma City's home crowd has really propelled them in so many games throughout the years, especially in the playoffs. That home court advantage is one of the best in the league. To see that crowd so lifeless at Chesapeake Energy Arena, and to see the jolt of energy that Russell Westbrook and Paul George provided in that second half is the stuff of legend. 25-point deficit. Russell Westbrook outscored the Utah Jazz 33-28 in the second half. Paul George and Russell Westbrook during this comeback scored or assisted on 61 of the Thunder's final points to finish the game. Then we have to also add this caveat. Rudy Gobert, the league's potential Defensive Player of the Year for 2017-2018, got in foul trouble in the third quarter. He picked up his fourth foul, had to sit down. The Thunder were able to cut the lead to 10. He actually came back in the game and picked up his fifth foul, which ultimately sat him down for the rest of the quarter. And the Thunder were able to come back and tie the game at 78. I mentioned Russell Westbrook. He had struggled throughout the entire series. He had one very good game going back to game one to complement Paul George's explosion in game one. But outside of that, he struggled from the field mightily. And I think that has to do a lot with what Rudy Gobert has done in the paint. Billy Donovan has been struggling throughout the entire series to find a lineup that can neutralize his particular impact. And then offensively, when you look at what Utah has been able to do in terms of efficiency, they have one playmaker and dominant scorer, and that's Donovan Mitchell, who's actually a rookie. But because of how he plays and how he's able to move off the ball, they're able to utilize other players like Joe Ingles and Derek Favors and Ricky Rubio to complement his ability to score and set up easy opportunities for everyone on the floor. Joe Ingles is a great shooter all around the court. He's a great passer as well. And Derek Favors, whose ability to get on offensive glass has created big mismatch problems for OKC. In the third quarter, because Gobert went down, Billy Donovan was able to use different lineups, including Jeremy Grant and Alex Abrines coming in to support Paul George and Russell Westbrook, who didn't sit down the entire second half. They understood the magnitude of the game and what it took to actually get to a game six. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be challenging. As I mentioned, I didn't plan on coming in here giving positive to the Oklahoma City Thunder. I actually expected to express to you how inconsistent the Thunder had been this entire season and how this particular series is a microcosm of what the Thunder could be. But as I mentioned, those inconsistencies lend itself to the peaks of what Oklahoma City can be. And that is all tied to what Russell Westbrook can do. As mercurial as he can be, as challenging as it is to watch him, no one can ever deny the heart of a player like Russell Westbrook. 33 points in the second half, 12 of 23 from the field, including 5 3-pointers, 2 of which really got the run started. And then when you consider how Paul George and Russell were able to complement each other, especially in that second half, both players combining for 54 of the 61 points. Not only were they able to play make and set up for others, but I just think their ability to stay in attack mode and play downhill opened up opportunities for Jeremy Grant, opened opportunities for Alex Abrines, who really played well defensively. Many don't consider Alex Abrines a good defender, but I think as he's gone on in his career, he's become a much better team defender. And I think last night, especially down the stretch, when Utah went cold, he made some huge deflections and blocks that really turned the tide defensively. Now, I mentioned the defense of Utah. Utah, with Rudy Gobert on the floor, their defensive rating was 89. With Rudy Gobert off the floor, their defensive rating jumped to 133. That's a horrible disparity. And I think that just goes to show you the impact of Rudy Gobert. One of the things that Utah has been able to exploit is ball movement and they force they force Oklahoma City to move on the defensive end. They swing the ball and find an open man, and then when you have the penetration of Ricky Rubio and Donovan Mitchell, they're able to cut into the heart of what Oklahoma City wants to do and get open shots for Royce O'Neal, for Jay Crowder, for a multitude of other players. I mentioned Jay Crowder. He had 6 threes last night. Ended up scoring 23 points. There's a reason Jay Crowder is now on the Cleveland Cavaliers, because his shooting is inconsistent. I don't expect Jay Crowder to be a complete bum, but 6 3-pointers in a game of that magnitude, I'm sure Oklahoma City didn't expect it as well. But as the pressure began to rise last night, the threes that were falling, the threes that were free flowing for Ricky Rubio, for Jay Crowder, for Royce O'Neal, for Joe Ingles, those didn't fall. And all of the pressure began to mount on Donovan Mitchell offensively. I think going into Game 6, they do have a decided advantage with home court. But when you blow a 25-point lead, psychologically, how can you recover from that? Oklahoma City is a team that in 2016 blew a 3-1 lead to Golden State. And considering the circumstances, having home court advantage, losing, going down 3-1, and then having to win at home, then win 2 in a row, including a Game 6 on the road, the parallels for Oklahoma City are striking. I think they have decided momentum on their side. I think Billy Donovan discovered a lineup matchup that could really challenge what Utah does. When you have Jeremy Grant on the floor, he provides defensive versatility. He's a great athlete, and he can run offensively. He doesn't need the ball. Then you have Alex Abrinas, who provides shooting. He can stretch the floor. He doesn't need the ball. And then you have 2 playmakers and scorers in Paul George and Russell Westbrook. Now, I didn't mention Carmelo Anthony at all during this analysis. That's because during the run that it took to come back from a 25-point deficit, Carmelo Anthony was on the bench. A player of his magnitude, a first ballot Hall of Famer, a 4-time Olympic medalist, including 3 gold medals, a player with a scoring championship, over 25,000 points, 6-time All-NBA, a 10-time All-Star. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer indeed. But at this point in his career, the game is decidedly passing him by. He still has the respect of the league, so there's a lot of shots that he can get if he's put in the right situations. But I think at this point, with how Russell Westbrook plays and how Paul George needs to play, I think there's something to be said about how Carmelo could potentially need to go to the bench. If not go to the bench, play a much limited role in terms of minutes, because Jeremy Grant needs to play, especially with how teams switch offensively and defensively, and how Jeremy athletically can provide so many mismatches. When he plays a big, he can go around him. If he's playing a small player, he can post him up. Or if you run in a pick and roll, he could play a role similar to what Clint Capella does for Houston. Clint Capella, before I even finish this Oklahoma City breakdown of Utah, Oklahoma City, Clint Capella played extremely well last night, closing out Minnesota. 122-104, Clint Capella scored 26 points, 12 of 14 from the floor. James Harden had 24 points and 12 assists. Not only did they close out Minnesota, but they continued their offensive onslaught in the third quarter, outscoring Minnesota 30-15. The game after, outscoring Minnesota 50-30. So, 50-20. So, when you look at what Clint Capella has been able to do for Houston, I think Jeremy Grant can do the same. Now, Houston will be awaiting the winner of Utah and Oklahoma City. I think depending on what matchup Houston wants to see, star power-wise, entertainment value-wise, obviously Oklahoma City will be the team. But defensively, Utah can provide so many challenges for what Houston brings. Houston will be the favorite, but if Oklahoma City gets into the second round, I don't think Houston wants to see Oklahoma City. That's just my opinion. I could be a bit biased because I'm a Russell Westbrook fan. But like I said, when you have a player of Russell Westbrook's caliber and he plays with so much pride and so much energy, Oklahoma City is never out of it. That's evidenced by what we saw. Only the third comeback of a 25-point deficit or more in NBA playoff history. And Russell Westbrook's 45 points, 15 rebounds, and 7 assists is only the third playoff performance of its kind. 45 points, 15 rebounds, and 5 assists. So to see what Russell Westbrook and Paul George, we can't forget about what Paul George provided. 34 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists. Those two players put on a spectacular performance, at least for one night, in Chesapeake Energy Arena, and NBA fans all over the world were able to witness history. Next time, don't go to sleep. No matter what happens, no matter how bad the team is losing, make sure you finish it because you could miss an instant classic. This is Ask Isaiah. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on Twitter at Ask Isaiah. Follow me on Instagram at Ask Isaiah. This is Isaiah Rhodes. We'll be back with more playoff coverage, more breakdowns, and as these series comes to a close, we'll be able to provide you with matchup analysis going forward. Speedy recovery to Steph Curry as well. I'm hearing he might be able to suit up for Game 1 against the New Orleans Pelicans, and that would be a matchup that everyone wants to see. I want to see if AD can get some revenge against the team that swept him in 2015. Ask Isaiah. We'll be back.